I'm sitting here with Cecil White and Jason Bergman, and one of the things I had the opportunity before Cecil came up was to kind of chat with Jason to understand what he does for a living. So I think first, before we get started, I'd like for both Jason and Cecil to kind of tell us why we're here today.
You don't want to tell him?
No.
I just told you.
I know, just you tell him.
Yeah. Very nice to meet everybody. Like Earl said, my name is Jason Bergman, so I'm the CEO and co-founder of Market Price, with my co-founder right there videotaping. What's up, Sherry?
Wave.
Yeah, if you want to stand up, can everyone give a round of applause for Sherry? Yeah. No, so I've worked in sales my entire career, and I am a huge sports nerd. I know that's why I'm here, but I've worked on both sides of the coin. So I've worked on both the brand side. So I've gone from cold calling local car dealerships, trying to pitch them on working with athletes, to enterprise clients like Anheuser-Busch and CBS Sports and Vitamin Shop. And then I've also worked as a sports agent, so not as big as Cecil and WME, but I worked with 12 smaller athletes, helping them find marketing deals, and I saw how hard it was to find the right brand at the right time and close a marketing deal. And I then started Market Price, which is a little bit of both. So we launched last year as a two-sided marketplace, and we facilitated over 7,000 partnerships between over 3,000 athletes, 1,000 businesses, again, as big as Coach and Puma and Meta, all the way down to local businesses since last year. And we're a bit of a matchmaker. Every single match is the coolest thing ever. Like I said, I'm a sports nerd, man, so it never gets old.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it from my side.
Cecil?
Awesome. Well, we need to make some more matchmaking happen with my clients.
Let's do it, man.
My name is Cecil White. It's nice to meet everybody. Agent at WME Sports. My background's in business development, so I started my career in investment banking, learned the art of kind of making deals, brought that to Endeavor, which is WME's parent company, did that for a few years, and really tried to merge my passion for athlete development and business development, and putting those two things together in the agent capacity. So been doing off-court marketing deals, brand endorsements, ventures, non-scripted content for about 4 years now. I did not think I was going to do NIL at all. So you asked about what brought me here. I think it was just happenstance. July 1st last year, we decided to jump in with everybody else, and we were working with pro athletes then. We're doing college athletes and pro athletes now, and we've been off to the races ever since.
It's funny you say that. It's a perfect segue. I think when you think of NIL, what are some of the key attributes that both yourself as well as Jason think about when you are looking to recruit and or sign an athlete?
Yeah, for me, it really starts with character. A lot of these deals are predicated on the value set that, the student athlete brings to the table, or the athlete in general brings to the table. So I want to make sure that I'm not dealing with someone who, one, is going to be a pain for me to deal with, but two, that I'm going to have to go to bat with and explain why they made some boneheaded mistake to a brand executive with, So I think that's number one. Two, our agency is really focused on multi-hyphenates. So to be an athlete is not kind of enough for us. You kind of have to have something else, right? Another interest. Right. So do you want to be a broadcaster? Are you creating content on social? Kind of what are the things that make you unique, and how can we really build an enterprise and a business outside of the work that you're doing on the field or on the court? And the third is really, just in general rapport. Like a lot of this stuff, is going to require athletes to trust us, for us to trust athletes. When they say they're going to show up to a photo shoot, they will. When we say this is a good deal for you, you should forego one that may have more money or what have you. We need them to trust us, conversely. So, that vibe has to be there as well.
So with NIL, things are different than a traditional endorsement. Have you found times that you'd have to do grooming, etiquette classes? I know they sound corny, but really get them in a situation where when they do engage your partner, that they're putting their best foot forward.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, we're, these are like 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, So, we're fortunate enough to have the resources of Endeavor behind us, so we do offer media training for our clients.
Right.
We do have kind of agents who are focused on, teaching our guys around camera presence and how they can actually engage on social. We have a whole social media team that actually posts on behalf of our clients, and we have, a digital team who goes out and shoots content with them. So it really is kind of like a personal development exercise, especially for the first few months, to teach these student athletes how to be brand friendly. They're really great athletes, but we have to teach them how to be ambassadors too. And then you also just get the human element of like the midnight phone call from like the boyfriend or girlfriend breakup, and like, do they remove their posts from social, with their partner or whatever?
Right.
So you kind of become like a big brother, big sister to these folks too.
Right. Jason, yourself?
Yeah, I think, and I want to stress too, to your question, Earl, like NIL is still brand
Still very
new.
new.
Like
Still
this
very
launched
new.
last July, and I'll never forget July 1st, where for us, we were servicing 5,000 professional athletes. Overnight, that went to 500,000 student
Yeah.
athletes.
Yep.
So for us, I don't know about you, Cecil, but I'm sure you were like, okay, what is this? Let's learn.
Yeah.
Let's improve every single day. We're still learning and we're still improving, but for us, it's about like this has been done before. Professional athletes have done marketing deals before. They've built brands off of the court. They've turned into, like we were talking about,
A brand.
businesses
Yep,
themselves, a
yep,
brand themselves. So for a lot of these student athletes, like, and it's true in every career, not to throw a wrench in this, but like we need to get 1% better every single day in whatever we're doing.
Totally.
The more that we could look at what professional athletes, what athletes like LeBron are doing, paving the path, like can athletes learn from other athletes who've done it before? Even we were talking before, Cecil, about Deja Kelly, UNC superstar.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's done deals with Dunkin' Donuts, with Campbell's Soup. You're doing your job, Cecil. She's crushing it. But for other student athletes we work with who are field hockey athletes, who are golfers, who are, maybe women's basketball players but aren't as good as Deja or have as big a following as her, can they learn from other student athletes that are in the same boat and focus on getting better every single day?
Well, it's funny you say that. I think one of the things I wanted to ask is, so NIL, the initial thought was college athletes, but I think now NIL is kind of bled into high school athletes. So, I mean, that's a question I pose to both of you all. Is there a different strategy when you approach or you're going to recruit a high school athlete versus a collegiate athlete?
I'd love your thoughts, Cecil.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now our strategy is to be super selective across the board. I think there's another filter for sure on high school
you're dealing
that's
with
even
somebody's
deeper.
mom and dad.
For sure,
Guaranteed.
and like, we want to be even more selective because the downside risk, is much higher because the time horizon until they go pro is that much longer. So for us, we really only have signed 2 high school athletes. One of them is the number 1 point guard in the country, number 1 player in the country, class of 23, DJ Wagner. The other is Rob Dillingham, who's at Donda Academy.
Right.
And both of those guys had already kind of amassed a really strong social following, had really strong reputations, and are poised to be lottery picks 2 years from now. So there's kind of like some mismitigation there. But I also say the strategy is much less about monetization and more about infrastructure building. So when you have a college athlete, they're wanting to make money like today.
Yeah.
Like you're on the phone with school sponsors and the collectives and everybody. High school, I think we've kind of like set expectations that, hey, we're gonna find some deals that are out there. But first, like, let's talk about the basics of social media, getting a regular cadence of posting.
Yep.
How do you engage with their audience? Introducing them to our college athletes so they could get a leg up, right? And kind of taking it step by step.
Yeah.
Mentoring.
Can I add one thing to that
Yeah.
too? Because Cecil, I think, and I don't want to, again, I know the wrench, right? Every single panel's been like, where do you see the NCAA going? Where do you see NIL going? For us, that 17 or 18-year-old kid before NIL was not thinking business, was not
Exactly.
thinking about building their
Exactly.
brand. So for us, that's been the coolest thing, where this 17-year-old now, who is already an amazing content creator, I mean, if you guys have been to other panels at Advertising Week, I know I have, there's panels specifically on how to engage with Gen Z. If you're a marketer in your 40s or 50s, how are you going to know how to engage with Gen Z? Why don't you work with them? Why don't you listen to them? Why don't you hear how they're engaging their audience? And when that 17-year-old is 21 and maybe a junior or senior in college, they're going to be unbelievable at building a
100%.
brand. And also, I mean, it gets younger and younger for these individuals who are insanely talented. Now they're just thinking about building their brand and building their business sooner in life. And that's a trend that I am insanely excited about, because we're going to have some incredible, I mean, don't get me started on the creator economy in general, but
Yeah.
I'll let you
100%.
continue
No,
asking
no.
questions.
I think that was something I did want to mention, because NIL is such a broad, uncharted territory. When you look at the endorsement opportunities, where are some of the coolest and oddest things that have surfaced themselves when you brought one of your athletes to the table? And that's for you as well. And you and I have to talk about it. You got some cool stories.
Yeah, I think for me, like, if you're a business, right, thinking about getting into working with student athletes, you can't just you work with the highest paid quarterback in the league and say, hey, buy my product and hold up a water bottle. Like, people sniff that out from a mile away and they're not interested. And if you're a brand, you need to have a, why does your brand exist, right? Why do you do what you do? What is your vision? Why should people buy your product and buy into what you're doing? There is absolutely no better and faster way to get your why across than working with a student athlete. And those are the cool things where those stories, I mean, like there's one that I was talking to you guys, you're a Golden Knight. So there's a UCF athlete, his name's Cam Baisden, he's a cheerleader. And when you think NIL, you think NFL quarterback, right? Like basketball player, you don't think cheerleaders right away. And he did a deal with Coach the other week. And he was telling us a story of how he was the youngest of 3 kids growing up. And he was always seeking validation from others to fulfill himself because he didn't have the confidence. That's just how it was growing up. And then he gets a deal with Coach, which is not for life-changing money. It's not.
No. Yeah.
But then he gets that deal with Coach, and it's like, oh, wait, okay, maybe I am doing something right. Like, and that gave him confidence to keep showing up. And this is also a student athlete who talks a lot about mental health, and he's very open about just empowerment in general. And those are the types of deals where if a brand like Coach is paying attention to you, like, that is something where he was crying to us on the phone because he was talking about how when he told his mom, he started crying, and she started crying. So those deals that are more than just an NIL deal are something that is, look, it's flat out inspiring.
Yeah.
Cecil?
No, I think that's a perfect example. And for me, I think the 2.0 of that would be like community impact. So I think the biggest example would be my client, Deja Kelly, who did a deal with Dunkin' Donuts. And Deja was raised by a single black mother. And one of the things she recalled from her childhood was her mom working several jobs and taking her and her younger brother to work. And before they got to school, they would stop at Dunkin' Donuts, and she would get a coffee. And right, and so for her, a big part of the partnership was like, look, A, we'll do the traditional marketing stuff, but B, we want to empower and fuel more working black single mothers. So, you know, they stroke a check to a program called the Vel Cares Foundation, which does an annual gala for working black moms in North Carolina, where she plays. But we also were able to give, you know, gift cards to single moms on the UNC staff as well.
Cool.
So, you know, those types of deals where you're able to actually help the student athlete make an impact in an area that touched their life and that they're super passionate about, are like why we do it and why we don't call them like, you know, transactions are really partnerships, right, at the end of the day. So
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a businessman, and I know value proposition is the #1 component when you're having a partner.
Yep.
When the both of you all are thinking about having that conversation with your clients, you just signed them, what are some of the key mentoring caveats and things that you have to kind of get them abreast on when you start to prep them and prepare them for their opportunity?
yeah, I think the first thing that we say is that, you know, you lead with sport. So our job, first and foremost, is predicated on your ability to go out and be the best athlete that you can be.
Right.
And there are some exceptions, right? There's some student athletes that have massive social media followings, and they're more of influencers than anything else. And so, you know, in that instance, sport becomes less relevant. But the first is definitely lead through sport.
Right.
Secondly is lead by example. So don't, you know, just jump at whatever the first company is. We're going to start off with true, authentic partnerships,
Right.
so that the corporate community can see what your value set is, what drives you, and then go from there. And then, you know, the third is really, you know, building for the long term. Like, there are a lot of corporations that jump in with our student athletes around key moments. So March Madness, everybody wants a basketball athlete.
Yeah.
CFP time, everybody wants somebody from Bama. So, you know, what we've said is like, look, how do we find folks who aren't just trying to do a 2-month, 3-month deal, but really do a 12-month arrangement or something where you know that, you know, when
Something of substance. You got to
and
get
when they
something
go
of
pro,
substance.
that they're still going to be around. You know?
Makes sense. What about yourself?
Yeah, I want to focus on what we've done, and you know, we don't have necessarily clients at market price, so we have athletes who may not be big enough to work with a big agency, right? They're not
Right.
bringing in 5, 6, 7-figure deals. But what we do is we just talk to them and listen to them, and I know that sounds insane, but we were speaking with a massive university last week, and they're like, yeah, we host these different presentations and coaching panels, and no student athletes show up, and then when they graduate, they say, well, why didn't I have this? And it's because they're not listening. There's no connective tissue between the university and the student athlete in a lot of different ways. So for us, it's getting on the phone with student athletes and learning, well, what interested you, right? Is it like you know that you have a live 24/7 mic in your hands and you have no idea how to use it with your phone? Is it something where you see other student athletes doing something and you have FOMO and you're like, I want to get better? Is it you think you're outgoing, but again, you've done it, but you don't know if you're going right? Like, what is it the student athlete's interested in? For us, it's boiled down to, you said it, Cecil, it's brand deals and it's brand partnerships. That's something really important. And how can I continue growing my following? How can I get verified on Instagram and Twitter? I'm only half joking. Like, they are interested in that. And how can I create brand content? Cam's a great example. He worked with Coach. Now he has this video with Coach. That's what he's using with other brands. And other brands are taking note.
He's leveraging it.
1,000%. And for a lot of these student athletes who, look, I don't feel bad for any of them now being able to take advantage of it. You heard Brooks earlier, who's like, I would have made hundreds of thousands of dollars.
A lot of us would.
They still could. But at least they're able to take advantage of it now. But these kids earlier in life are going to be able to leverage NIL a lot more. So it's listening to these student athletes, and it's really helping them what they care the most about, which a lot of people are just putting in. You know, there's a 30-minute financial literacy webinar that a lot of universities have, or an hour. Should student athletes listen to that? Absolutely. Will they? No. No chance.
I want to talk about that because I think there is an NIL deal has the ability to change a young person's life, whether you are 17 years old, a senior in high school, or you are 19 years old and you're a junior in college, sophomore in college. What are some of the pitfalls that you try to educate those young persons, because they're leaning on you? What are some of the pitfalls, some of the examples that you're able to talk to them about?
The first is obvious, right? Like, not jumping for the money. Like, you know, there's a lot of brands who, like challenger brands specifically, who see NIL as an opportunity to, like, you know, eat up market share from larger incumbents.
Right.
And while it might make sense if a student athlete has a particular affinity or some type of alignment with that challenger brand, a lot of the times, you know, it's preventing them from working with the larger incumbent down the road. So if you want a Nike deal or an Adidas deal, it may not be the smartest to partner with like a direct-to-consumer apparel company, even though they're offering to pay you today, right, 5 figures or whatever the number may be. And to a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, telling them to turn down 6-figure money that like they know their parents don't even get for like a salary is like really difficult. So I don't know. I think that's the biggest hurdle that I have, is just like calming them down when they see a big number.
That's just the right answer. Like, if anyone said, like, it's okay to say no, right? Because that's something where
it's easier said than done.
It's so easy to say it, but and especially because these kids forever were not able to do this, right? NIL is game-changing legislation. It's for the first time ever these kids could accept these opportunities. But like you said, Cecil, like, this is something where you need to see every brand that you partner with is now part of your brand, and it's something that you'll have forever, and it's a lot of responsibility. There's no other way to say it, but it is okay to say no.
And I think that responsibility word, I know there's several panels that's been on since us. There'll probably be one or two over after us, but that sense of responsibility, it's funny you said that. What do you all feel your agency, your division has as a sense of responsibility to those athletes that may not go pro? They may take a deal 1 or 2 years, make a couple $100,000, and just say, you know what, I don't want to play professional sports. Do you feel a sense of responsibility other than just getting that deal or supporting them getting that deal?
Yeah, I mean, when we sign people, our representation agreements aren't 12 months. You know, they're typically multiple years, and it depends on the state for NIL if you can do that. But our goal is really to build a long-term brand, a long-term enterprise and business. So I think from the onset, asking and setting the expectation of what their long-term goals are will kind of like chart the path for you. Some people, you know, like we have some, you know, clients on our roster who I won't name that probably won't play professional sports. And that's okay, but we spend time creating other avenues and distribution channels for them to tap into their audience as influencers, as creators, and everything else. So I think when you meet someone where they are from day one, it becomes easier from then on.
Yeah, I think meeting them where they are is probably we all need to take that away. You got to meet them where they are, identify their opportunities, and grow them from there. Jason?
Yeah. The only thing I was going to add to the last question of it's okay to say no is make sure you surround yourself with the right people. So, for example, every client that you're with, Cecil, like, that's amazing because you're a boss, and that's amazing for the athletes where you care about them first. there's not every player out there is a good player, and I hate to say it, but it is true. It's making sure that you're able to say no, you surround yourself with the right people, and for us at Market Price, athletes pay us a monthly membership. It could be as low as $8 a month.
Right.
But the hardest part with these brand deals is that 0 to 1. Athletes do not have all day to send out 100 cold emails like I did as an agent and get 3 replies and 2 of them are no's. So when they come onto Market Price, it's an equitable solution where one of our biggest stories is this girl, Keely Davis. She's a senior volleyball player with a couple thousand followers at Creighton. She's done over 20 deals on Market Price.
Wow.
And that's something where those are 20 doors where, is she going to be a professional volleyball player? I'm not sure, but you know, if she's able to connect with, let's say, the marketing manager at Meta and the marketing manager at Allbirds and the CEO of these health and wellness companies that she really cares about, that is the definition of taking your moment and maximizing it.
That's the purpose of NIL. That's the purpose of NIL.
All NIL is opportunity. Some student athletes are ready to take it like Keely, some aren't yet, and that's
Right.
okay. But that's why, again, surround yourself with the right people, learn from others,
Right.
and be okay to fail. Like, that's something we were talking about.
We talked
Raekwon
about earlier.
Smith,
He is
That dude-
a monster, man.
he's speaking at
Raekwon
athletes.
is a monster, man.
Yeah.
He is a monster. 71 deals.
And look,
71 deals.
would I do 71
Norfolk
deals?
State.
I don't know if I would do 71 deals, but for him, the thing that separates him is hustle. Where if I could hire Raekwon Smith, and
Yeah.
they were talking about it on the panel yesterday, that dude is a multi-sport athlete. He's
Yep.
keeping up with classwork,
Yep.
and he has time for 70 NIL deals. There's not. Does he sleep?
Yeah, he's
I
on
would wanna hire
he's
that
on
guy.
the dean's list and is going to graduate on time, playing 2 sports,
Is he really on the
football
dean's list?
and track. Man, he's a problem. I did my research.
But
I
that's
did my
something. That's a
research.
resume.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. That
Yeah.
kid, no matter what he does, will succeed, and that's unbelievable. And NIL gave him that opportunity to do that.
So we've talked about the good things. Let's talk about the bad things. Have you ever had an athlete that you signed that you had to let go?
For NIL or just in
NIL,
general?
purely NIL.
Fortunately, no, not formally. We have had situations though where we've had tough conversations, right, with families, you know, around expectations and deal flow. But thankfully, no, we haven't had to formally
Yourself,
separate
Jason?
ties.
Sorry, what was the last word of that question?
I said, have you ever had an athlete that you had to have a tough conversation and maybe he didn't make the cut, or maybe he made the cut and then he got released?
Like fired from your
Like,
agency?
I'm not trying to say fired. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, you know, these are 16, 17-year-old kids. You get someone who's a senior in high school, you tell them to fight, that might mess them up for life. So
yeah.
you're just telling them, maybe we didn't make the right decision. And how do you have that conversation with that parent or with that athlete?
Yeah, so I think for us, it's a little, so we're a little different than an agency where if you guys are, let's say, like a dating coach, we're like the dating app. So we're the technology that student athletes are able to come on. And that's why it's, you know, we're able to help. Dude, if you guys had 3,000 athletes at WME, you wouldn't be giving everybody a fair shot. So for us, with technology, we're able to empower every athlete to connect with thousands of businesses.
Great.
But the hard part for us has been on the compliance side of these student athletes, making sure I have had to call an athlete and say, hey man, you posted an ad with your university in it. Did you, and knowing, I'm like, did you get your director of compliance to okay this?
Right.
Because there's a few rules. That's the wild, wild west of these kids may not know every single one. For us, we need to make sure that these kids aren't getting in harm's way because of the brand deals that they're getting in with. So for us, I mean, student athletes come to us because they know that we are putting them first and foremost in every single thing that we do.
Right.
And not everybody could say that. But those are still tough conversations of, look, you thought this was okay. Actually, it's not.
Right.
You have to delete it, and you have to do this. Student athletes just want to get deals and get paid, right? And
But
as
not
easy as possible.
necessarily adhere to some of the governance that's in place.
Well, the tough
may not know
part
about it.
is too, like if you have a client who gets into a deal and then regrets it, like that
Yeah.
happens
Yes.
all the time. And
Right.
we have terminated relationships with brands, you know, because the student athlete was no longer comfortable with the relationship.
Is there any recourse with that?
For sure.
Has it been?
For sure. I
know there's
mean, you're foregoing payment, right? Like the payment schedule for these deals is you get a little bit up front and then you get a little bit amortized
Based off of
over the term.
performance. Yep.
Well, not based off, but like based off time. So if you're getting paid quarterly for a 12-month deal and on month 4 you say you're done, you only got paid for the first quarter.
Yeah.
So you're foregoing that, and in the instance we had, it was really unfortunate because we had a good relationship with the brand, and you know sometimes you match make and it's not a match
Doesn't
made in
work,
heaven.
Yeah.
And you know you just kind of try to mend things the most you can, but you put your client first, and sometimes like the best deal is the one that you don't do.
So, governance. It's funny we mentioned that because you all are both, and we all are playing in this new world called NIL. Do you feel there should be some type of governing body, some type of oversight? Where do you see NIL? Because to your point, it is the Wild Wild West. Mm-hmm. But at some point, do you feel that there needs to be some rules that are standardized, agnostic of what state you're in?
Yes. I don't know what those are,
Right.
but yeah, I also think I like to think of NIL as there's two NILs. There's
Right.
the college quarterback that's making $9 million from a university for questionable deliverables, right? A one appearance. And,
Right.
and those are deals that we don't touch in because, look, they're questionably illegal, right?
Right.
And that's what a lot of the news are. But then there's the other deals where it's the Deja Kelly working with Dunkin' Donuts, and whether it's social
she's
media,
changing
giving back to
lives. She's
charity.
changing lives.
There's the Raekwon Smith doing NIL deals that are focused on the 99% of athletes who are not, let's say, Arch Manning or the star quarterback. So
Yep.
I think for the first NIL that I mentioned, that we don't really wade in those waters because it's really questionable right now. That's what I think the Wild Wild West is, where can a school offer a high school kid and get a high school kid in trouble before they make a decision?
Yeah.
That messes with the kid. The kid is losing that battle, which is really unfortunate. So
Yep.
I would love for someone to step in. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and I don't
There's
think
a lot
no one
smarter
does.
people than me
Yeah, I
to
don't
figure
think
that
no
out.
one
but-
does.
It's also a function of where the actual business model stands today,
Yes.
where there's still not congruency between the university and the student.
Yep.
And so it makes those types of deals that you mentioned about
Even more challenging.
right. So
Yeah.
it's like, in my opinion, like this is just the tip of the iceberg. NIL is, and when we reach the moment where schools and universities are letting the kids in to where the real money is, which is the corporate sponsorships and the multimedia rights, then those types of questionable deals aren't necessary.
Yeah.
Because you're actually a part of a salary, and there's a salary cap, and there's all the things. So
Yeah.
I think if the NC2A could kind of thread that needle, which of course it's easy for me to say that from my seat. There's
Yeah.
smarter minds that might have to do that.
Yeah.
Those types of black market deals won't be as frequent.
Yeah.
Wow, we kind of hit this right on time. We're going to close out, but any parting words yourself, Jason?
Parting words. Go check out Market Price. It's the best marketplace. I mean, look, to answer that question seriously, if you're in the NIL space, whether we're at Adweek, right? So as a business, if you are a business, and I believe Pat said this for Mountain Dew, and Kaylin, the CMO of Gatorade, said this as well. Take time to talk to the athlete, learn their story,
Learn
learn
who they
their
are.
why, and
Right.
learn why they're doing what they're doing. And look, a lot of student athletes may not know that yet. They may have interest, but that's why people like Cecil are amazing of helping them turn those interests
Yeah.
into business opportunities. But you can't just work with an athlete, say, hold my product and go post on social media. Those deals do not work for either party ever. 100% fail rate. If you're a business, take time to speak to the athlete, learn why they're interested in your product, learn that connection before signing a contract with them. So 1 quarter in, you're like, yeah, this doesn't work for me. You want to love the business, you want to love the people that work at that business, and you want to take the time up front. There's never going to be too much time to prep for an opportunity. So take that time, both as the brand and as an athlete. Learn that why, because there is unlimited potential there. So that's
Cecil,
parting words.
before we wrap up?
That's a tough act to follow. All I wanted to just waive my monthly membership fee for
I
my
got you,
clients to
Cecil.
be on.
Oh, you
on
want to
Market
wave
Price.
Wave him?
That's
All
it.
right.
Oh, we're recorded. We'll talk about it after. Yeah.
Thank you all
Well,
for
thank you,
joining. I
guys.
appreciate you. Thank you.